Hi, my name is Sam Lappin. I've been a communication professor at NKU since 1995, and one of my specialties is working with new college students. And this specialty comes from a couple of things. First of all, from teaching the class University 101, Orientation to College and Beyond, which I've taught about 20 times, and also from teaching dual credit classes, which I've done for about 20 years. Dual credit classes are classes for high school juniors and seniors who qualify to take classes that count for credit both towards high school and for college. And I've gone into high schools in 6 different counties in Northern Kentucky and taught dual credit classes. And one of the things that's happened as I've been doing that over the years is I've had a lot of opportunity to listen to students. And one of the things that they've been telling me about is the barriers that they face to finishing college. And so I took that information and I created a presentation to try to address those barriers. I call it Professor Sam's Tips for College Success. I've refined this presentation over a period of about 15 years. It runs about 2.5 hours and includes some song breaks with music that is related to the topics I'm talking about. And the students tell me they find the song breaks to be very powerful. And I do a survey with the students who've attended the presentation. They tell me they love it and that in many cases, it addressed information, gave them information that they'd been looking for. I've even had former students contact me and tell me that the information that I presented was very useful to them during their college education. Recently, I was doing the presentation by Zoom because of the pandemic, and even though I didn't know it, one of my students' mothers was also watching the presentation. She sent me an email with her feedback, and she's given me permission to share that email with you. And here it is. I was very fortunate to hear your lecture yesterday. You didn't see me, but I was in the background of my son's computer hanging on to every word you spoke. I appreciate your truthfulness and honesty along with real life scenarios that you gave in your own experiences. Dad and I are always talking about the subject matter that you hit on. You were the conversation over dinner last night. I couldn't wait to tell my husband about your lecture. Keep up the great work. These kids may not ever hear truth from anyone else. Your topic points are difficult to discuss, and you did a fabulous job. Have a blessed, sunny day. I am very passionate about this presentation, and I do believe it really can make a difference in helping students finish college. The thing I'm looking for is an opportunity to make this presentation to more college freshmen and also college-bound high school juniors and seniors. If you have any ideas on how I might do that or any way that you might be able to help me do that, please email me. My email address is lappin@nku.edu. What follows is a sample from the presentation. It runs about 20 minutes. I am doing it from home during the pandemic, so please forgive me if any of my cats make a guest appearance. I know 20 minutes is a lot to ask for, but I appreciate you investing your time. And here's a sample from Professor Sam's Tips for College Success. We're going to start with a topic that college students say is oftentimes one of their biggest struggles while they're in college, and that's time management. And so a few thoughts on that. First is using a method of organization is more important than which method you use. I see people get caught up in this idea of, oh, should I use this app, or should I carry a paper calendar, use a bulletin board? I like to post-it notes on my mirror in my bathroom to help me remember things. But what becomes a really big problem is people get so caught up in trying to decide which one to use, they end up not using anything. So pick something, go with it, and if it's not working out great for you, go with something else, but don't just not use any method. And then also, always be asking yourself at least a couple times a day this question: what can I do today that my future self will be glad that I did? So that might be starting on a paper that, even though it's not due for a couple of weeks, you can go ahead and get a start on it, start doing some research, do a little bit of the writing, get your main theme and whatever it might be, because your future self will look back when it's only a couple days till that paper's due and be really glad that you got that start. Another example might be if your car is making a funny noise, go ahead and get that checked out, because if even though your cars may be running okay, if you don't pay attention to it now, it may get to the point where your car is not working. You don't want that to happen. So ask yourself, what can I do today that my future self will be glad that I did? Next, a really important issue for everybody, but certainly something that plays a big life in college students, is money. The first thing I want to point out to you is this: credit card companies want to exploit you. You are the #1 target audience for credit card companies. There's 2 reasons for that. One, because you're a college student, you're very likely to be successful. Secondly, because you're young, you have many years ahead of you to accumulate a lot of debt, and that's how they make money. And so you'll start getting things in the mail, or you'll buy your books at a bookstore and they'll put a little flyer in there, earn miles and things like this. There might be a table set up on campus, and you fill out a piece of paper and they give you a hoodie with your school logo on it. And next thing you know, you're getting this bill in the mail. Maybe you haven't used the credit card, but there's some kind of fee. So just be aware that that is a very big issue. And credit card companies are really trying to target you and get you into that unhealthy cycle. Next is time is more important than money. The sooner you figure this out, the better. I'm not sure who to give credit to for this idea, but I really like it. At the end of your life, you'll never look back and say, gee, I wish I'd spent more time at the office. But sadly, some people do look back and say, I wish I'd spent more time with the people that I love. And if you feel like you have to buy every latest thing, the newest smartphone, the car with all the gadgets, whatever, and you get to the point where you're constantly having to work and pay for those things, then you're not going to be able to spend all that time with the people that you care about. And that really is the important thing, is to make sure that time is more important than money. Related to that, I want to point out a few things regarding jobs for students. First of all, don't sell yourself short. You don't have to accept the first job that's offered to you. You can be a little bit picky. The fact that you are in college and being successful shows that you have some very valuable skills that employers are looking for. So you can choose, to be a little bit picky. Maybe find one that will, for example, offer you some benefits towards your tuition, things like that. Look for those things. And remember that school comes first, right? I've had instances where I've had students who will contact me and say, well, I can't come to class today because my boss is asking me to work a second shift. You know what? If your boss is asking you to miss school to work, that person is not invested in you, does not care about your future. And so it's time to leave and find a different job. And keep in mind, the Career Center at your school isn't just for finding jobs after you graduate. They also have listings of jobs that they can help you find while you're a student. And then also look for jobs connected to your major. So let's say, for example, you were majoring in something related to the health field. If you can get a job working at a doctor's office, a hospital, a pharmacy, something like that, that's something that can be really advantageous. The fact that you're making contacts in that field and that you'll have something on your resume going back where you had an opportunity and did work in something related to your field. Technology, something that obviously plays a big role in the life of college students. And one important point is this: remember, they are machines, okay? I don't exaggerate when I tell you that I've had students who have flunked out of my classes because they were so addicted to their technology. Another way that I would give you a tip is this: if you are using your computer or your gaming system and you're gaming or using social media, whatever it is, and then you look at the clock and you think, oh, it's probably about 10:30, and it's 2 in the morning. If this is something that's happening to you, you have a problem and you should seek help. You must learn the art of conversation, even with strangers. More and more, I'm running into people who don't want to talk in person or even on the phone. And then, oh, I just want to text, I just want to email. And text and email is great and it has many useful purposes, but you have to learn how to have conversations. You have to learn how to talk to people. You have to learn that sometimes when you're talking, you're going to say something kind of wrong and you're going to have to deal with that. These are important skills and you need to be having conversations to be able to develop those skills. And then this, online friendships cannot replace in-person friendships, right? I'm not saying don't have online friendships, but you can't have just online friendships. You need to have in-person friendships with people that you can talk to, look at them eye to eye, see their face and their emotional expressions, be able to hear the tone of their voice, be able to touch them. These are important human needs, and you need to make sure that that's something that's a part of your life. Moving on, the next topic I want to get into is empathy. So to start out with, I want to point out that empathy is different than sympathy. And sympathy is just reaching out and saying that you care, offering to help people, and that's a wonderful thing, but it's different from empathy. Empathy is seeing it from someone else's point of view, really understanding what they are experiencing, what they're thinking, what emotions they're feeling, that type of thing. And it takes a lot of effort. In particular, it requires a lot of undivided listening. Now, one important thing about listening is it's not a passive activity. It's not just sitting there going, listening means being very involved. It means showing that you're paying attention non-verbally, but also verbally, asking questions, drawing that person out, encouraging them to say what they have to say. And there's really very few things in life you can do to show somebody that you care about them than to give them their undivided listening. And by the way, undivided listening, among other things, means not having your phone or any technology there. And then this regarding empathy. There are always things about others that you don't know, right? So I'll give you an example of what I mean. I had a student in one of my classes who was having a lot of trouble staying awake during class. And, we can make judgments on such little information. It would have been very easy for me to say, I want to see you after class. What's wrong with you? You should be staying awake. That's really rude. But that's not what I did. I said, I'm concerned about you. You seem to have trouble staying awake. And the student shared with me that he had recently been thrown out of his home by his parents. He was staying with some friends, but he knew he couldn't stay there very long. And so things were a lot of upheaval in his life. And here he was still coming to school, taking his classes, trying to move forward, trying to make his life better. That's incredibly impressive. And if I hadn't taken the time to learn that about him, I could have easily made a judgment that was way off the mark. Another topic that unfortunately is a really important one on college campuses and something that doesn't get talked about because it's difficult but needs to be talked about is sexual assault. So first thought is no means no. And part of what's important about that idea is to keep in mind that men have a role to play in solving this problem. We know the vast majority of victims are females, though not always. There are sometimes males who are victims. But guys have a role to play in this by, understanding this idea that no means no and expecting that of your buddies as well. If, one of them is expressing something that goes against that, it's time to let them know, hey, that's not cool. Consent is key. The sooner that you introduce consent into a relationship, the better. You're going to get so many benefits from that. And one of the questions I like to ask young people is this. Let's say you're on a date, going out with someone for the first time, and it gets to the end of that date, and you're interested in giving that person a kiss. Should you ask for their permission? And a lot of times people say, oh, that kind of spoils the mood, whatever. I'd like to encourage you and try to persuade you that the answer is yes, you should ask for permission. And first of all, that actually can be very romantic. But secondly, if you expect things to work, like in the movies, the music comes up and the trees are swaying in the wind or whatever, you're just in for a whole lot of awkwardness is what's going to happen. Okay, so the sooner you introduce consent and show that person that you respect them, the better. And it's really going to pay off in terms of the future of that relationship. Another thing about sexual assault is look out for each other. So one example would be if you're going out to parties or some type of social situation, keep an eye on each other and know where each other are to just make sure that you're safe. If you're going out on a date, have somebody that you're in touch with and texting them maybe every 20 or 30 minutes so they know where you are and that you're okay. And I mean, that might seem a little bit rude, but it is worthwhile to do that to make sure that you're safe. Also, I want to make the point that when you're dating someone new, wait until you know them really, really well before you're alone with that person, in their apartment, in their dorm room, because those are the situations oftentimes where date rape takes place. And then this, stand up, don't be a bystander. We all have a role to play in addressing the problem of sexual assault. So let's say, for example, you're at a party and you see something that's kind of suspicious, and trust your intuition on this. Let's say there's a guy with a young lady who is pretty intoxicated and he's taking her down a hallway. Don't just sit there and let that terrible thing happen. Get involved. But the point I want to make is you don't have to start a fight. Okay, you don't have to threaten the person. Just being there, just going, hey, I'm not sure, I've met you. What year in school are you? What's your major? What do you think the chances are for our basketball team this year? Whatever. Just by being there, you can prevent that terrible thing from happening. Moving on, talking about relationships. This might strike you as a little bit unusual, but it's an idea that I really believe in. And again, keep in mind, this is the way I see it. But I think it's a good idea to date some people you would never marry, right? Dating is about more than just finding your future spouse or life partner. And so you have an opportunity to take advantage of that. You have an opportunity to get to know new and different people, which can be a very wonderful thing. You have an opportunity to learn about yourself, and it can just be fun. So, date some people you would never marry. It can be a great learning experience. Then this dating should be fun. If not, get out. Right. So I want to tell you a personal story. This is not easy to share, but I've made up my mind that if it helps even one person, this is something that I'm going to share. When I was a junior in college, I started dating a young lady, and at first it was kind of fun, and we had a good time and all that. And then it's really started to change. She became critical of me, and even hypercritical. She criticized the way I dressed, the way I talk, the way that I walk, the way that I wear my socks, just all kinds of things. Very hypercritical, always being critical. And she started becoming manipulative, wanting me to drive her to places, wanting me to write some of her papers for her. And she really treated me lousy in many different ways. And here's the thing, I dated her for about a year and a half. And I look back at that and go, why didn't I just turn to her one day and say, you know what, you treat me terrible. I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. Well, the problem was self-esteem. And maybe some of you have seen this with your friends, but basically, the more she treated me horribly, the more I came to believe that I deserved to be treated horribly. And so if you're in a dating situation that isn't fun, get out of that situation. And it's okay to look for help, to turn to a friend, a family member, a member of your religious organization, if that's a part of your life, and let them help you find the strength to say to that person, I don't deserve to be treated this way. I don't want to be part of this relationship. And then alcohol and sexual decision making. This, I think, is one of the really important topics that doesn't get talked about enough, especially in situations in college. And I want to illustrate this by telling you another story. This happened when I was a sophomore in college. At that time, I was living on an all-guys dorm floor. And the way it was set up is the rooms were around the outside, and then in the middle is where the bathroom was. There were two doors, one on each side, and it was a Saturday evening, and I came in one of the doors, and maybe about a half minute later, the other door opened, and these two young ladies come in. They don't know that I'm in there. And one of the two young ladies was absolutely hysterical out of her mind. She was doing this, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And she was really slurring her speech. You could tell she was very intoxicated. And her friends trying to calm her down. What's the matter? Oh my God, oh my God. And she gets her calmed down enough where she can talk to her a little bit. She goes, what is wrong? And her friend says, I just had sex with that guy. And she says, which one? She says, I don't know. She was so intoxicated. She had intercourse with a guy and she didn't even know which guy it was. Right. And these types of things are tragic, and they happen far too often. And, I'm realistic. I'm not going to look at you and say, okay, boys and girls, don't ever have a beer. It's the devil's beverage. But you don't have to get so drunk where you're not even able to really make any type of intelligent decision. One other point I want to make about that story is the young man who had intercourse with that young lady, that's rape. Okay. We need to call it what it is. It's rape. Another topic that I think is important because it's one that we all deal with, but we really don't take much time to learn about, is grieving and death. And I'm sure many of you have experienced this, and all of us will at some point in your life. And so one of the things that I think is important is there are no shortcuts. When you lose someone that you care about, friend, family member, maybe even a pet, there's no shortcuts to that grieving process. You have to go through it, and it can be so hard, but there's no way around it. And keep in mind this, it's complex. The grieving process is a very complex thing. So, for example, if you are supporting someone who's going through bereavement, you may not do it perfectly. You're not going to do it perfectly. You may say something that comes out wrong, that seems insensitive, whatever. It's okay. It's not going to be perfect, but the fact that you're there and supporting that person means so much more than having to try to get it perfect, which just isn't going to happen. And also for yourself, as you're experiencing those emotions, one of the things that often happens is you have emotions that really don't seem to go together. So my father died a few years ago from Parkinson's disease, and he suffered from Parkinson's for many years. And it was excruciating to see the ravages that it took on him. And when he passed away, I experienced deep sadness, but I also experienced a sense of relief. And then I felt guilty for feeling a sense of relief. I shouldn't feel a sense of relief. My father died, but yeah, you know what? It made sense. He wasn't suffering anymore. And so, it's okay. In 2017, I lost my oldest brother to cancer. And during the final weeks of his life, as he was dying, I was angry. And I thought, this doesn't make any sense. He's dying. Why should I be angry? Well, you know what? It was okay that I was angry. He was leaving and I still needed him. But I wasn't angry at him. I was angry at cancer. Okay. And so these emotions are very complex. So the last thing is give yourself some slack. It's not going to be perfect. Okay. But it's a complex thing and you do have to go through it, but give yourself some slack. Okay. Understand it's a very jagged process. That's okay. Mental health, obviously a big issue worldwide, but something that oftentimes is a big issue for students when they're in college. And so first thing is help is available. There's help available through your university or college, as well as other resources. And it really can make such a huge difference. That help really can change your life. And I encourage you to think about that. And one of the things that happens sometimes, I'll have people say to me, well, I'm not really sure if I have depression. I'm not really sure if this is actually anxiety. Well, don't worry about labels like that. Think about counselors this way. They're a personal trainer for your heart and soul. Who wouldn't want that? So it doesn't matter if it can be specifically labeled as anxiety or depression or whatever. If you have an opportunity to have a personal trainer for your heart and soul, that's a wonderful thing. Take advantage of that. And then this, it may be part of you, but it does not define you. So this is something I've also made the decision to share because I hope it might help some other people. But I suffer from chronic clinical depression. I have for my entire adult life and even before that. And depression is different for different people. It's not chronic for everyone and so forth, and has different ways of affecting different people. But for me, it's always going to be a part of my life. But here's the thing. It's not going to define who I am. I have made the effort to find out different ways to cope with it and deal with it so it doesn't take over my life. So yeah, it may be something that's with you. It does not have to define you. Next is taking risks. I love this idea. You miss every shot you don't take. If you ask older people sometimes, well, what do you wish you'd done differently? A lot of times they'll say, I wish I'd taken more risks. I wish I'd taken more chances. And I'm not talking about stupid stuff. Don't put on a blindfold and see if you can walk across the highway without being killed or something. Don't be dumb, but just, trying new and different things, getting to know different people. These are important things to do. And you have the opportunity to take those chances, take them. Next, mistakes are extremely valuable. That you will learn more from your mistakes than from any college class that you'll ever take. They are so valuable, such an important part of your personal growth and just becoming the person that you're going to become. And another point I'd make about that is a lot of times the things that happen in our lives that we look at as being mistakes, later on, we actually look back and see they weren't mistakes at all and probably were the best thing that could have happened. This, don't fear hurt. So I sometimes hear people say, well, I don't want to get a broken heart. I don't want to get my heart broken. You know what? That's stupid. In my opinion, that's just a really dumb way to look at things. Not only, in my opinion, should you not avoid getting a broken heart, you should seek it out. And I'm not just talking a little boo, have a milkshake, go see a movie, whatever, I'm going to feel better. I'm talking about having your heart ripped out of your rib cage and thrown on the ground and stomped on. All right. So another quick story, there was someone that I dated in college for almost 3 years. And I really loved this young lady and I wanted to marry her. And in fact, 2 different times we were engaged and disengaged. And in the end, she left me brokenhearted. I haven't seen this person in over 25 years, but sometimes something might remind me of her, a song or something, and I get this pain. And you know what? It's wonderful. It is. I know that I'm alive. I know that I've opened myself to the full range of human experience when I feel that. And here's the other thing. I would not be the husband I am today. I would not be the father I am today. I would not be the teacher I am today if I had not had that experience. And then moving on to identity. The main point I want to get across regarding identity very simply is this: don't let others define you. That we get a lot of pressure from other people through social media, oftentimes through advertising that tells us that we have to have the perfect hair and the perfect teeth, and everything just has to be exactly the way that they say it has to be. And there's companies that sell products for this that make billions of dollars by trying to make you feel bad about yourself. Well, you know what? They can't do that unless you give them permission. Don't give them permission. And keep in mind, if there's people who don't want to be your friend because you don't have the perfect hair, the perfect teeth, or whatever, you're better off without shallow people like that in your life anyway. Thank you for watching that sample from Professor Sam's Tips for College Success. I hope as you watched it, you could see how much this presentation and the purpose that it serves means to me. And as I said, I am looking for opportunities to make this presentation to more groups of college freshmen, as well as high school bound juniors and seniors. If you have any ideas on how I might do that, or any ways you might be able to help me do that, I'd appreciate it if you get in touch with me. Again, my name is Sam Lappin, and my email address is lappin@nku.edu. I do appreciate your time, and I thank you.